The condition of the second armrest is pretty much the same as the other one. It's usable in terms of the inside, so it's got to be cleaned up. The foam on the top, or we'll call it foam, dense foam, is still serviceable. So that's not the issue. The rest of it, of course, is very poor. Now I haven't tried to pull the piping out yet, so I can't tell what that's like, but maybe it's not too good either. But if I can salvage that, I will. If not, I'll use an alternative piping. So the process will be the same. I'll start on doing the top piece and then adding the piping to it and sewing it around. Now I know the problems I'm going to face, and the problem is being able to stitch close to the piping. Now on this one here, it took me many attempts to get that stitching close enough, and that's about as close as I can get it, certainly with my machine. I could hand stitch it, but really I don't think it's necessary, so I'll just be mindful of what I'm doing when I'm using the machine to get a nice close fit. Haven't put this one together yet. I've just put the cover over, so it's not finished completely, but I was going to wait until I did this one, and I'll do both of them at the same time, because they have to have additional padding in there, and the padding really goes all the way around. It's only thin. They use some form of what you'd call it, but it's a very soft fibrous fabric, so I've got something equivalent in terms of a modern alternative, and that goes around the edges to soften the whole pad around the side. So I've leaving that until last. But at this stage, what I'll be doing now is cutting out. I'll use the one on the other side as a template. I won't bother trying to salvage this or the other pieces, so I've got a template. I'll bet it's a reverse, and I'll just check to make sure it's the right size, which it is, and I'll then start cutting the material out. I've got plenty of leather left over, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Now with this top piece, I've used different piping. The original was damaged beyond repair, but I've used this type of piping, which is a cloth. It's quite soft. The other one was like a piece of nylon, very hard and very brittle. So it's been different to sew in. In some respects it's easy. In other respects I've had a little difficulty, particularly with the join piece. What I'm going to have to do, and I was hoping I wouldn't have to do, is to hand sew around this corner. Now I'm hoping I can do that. I don't have a lot of leather to play with. I'm basically trying to get a pen. Had a pen here somewhere. Can't find it. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to get the seam in around here. Now it's travelled out that way on the machine, even doing it by hand. So I'm going to use a leather needle, which I did have here, which I've now misplaced. Oh, how can you do that? Anyway, it's a hook. It's basically the shape of the finger there. I can get the needle through a couple of pieces of leather, but unfortunately this here is at least 4 pieces. So I'm probably going to have to use this probe to actually make a hole in the first place and then run the stitch through. As I say, I want to get this much tighter than I was able to on the machine, and so the problem with that is I've got so many pieces of leather in here trying to sew it through, and it's just pushing the machine needle out of the way. So I'll have to go in here and I'll very carefully poke this through, and not poke it through my finger, and sew that by hand, and hopefully it'll work. Otherwise the piping's gone in quite good. It's actually a little bit smoother, mainly because it's not solid, it's flexible, so it's a little bit smooth around the tight edges. So I'll when I find the needle, I've put it down on the table here. Very easy to misplace, but I will find it, and I will start hand sewing. I've just finished hand stitching along here where the machine wouldn't stitch close to the piping. Interesting exercise. As I said, I've had to use the not what you call that, in short it has a name. It's designed for leather work. Very sharp probe. First of all is to put a hole through, which I did, and managed not to actually put it through my finger, which is a bonus. You don't have to push it right through, just push it through so it's made a reasonable hole on one side and an exit hole, albeit a small one, on the other. That way you're able to actually locate the hole when you put this beastly little needle through. If you've got the hole, this will go through. It can be a little bit tight, but it's certainly workable. So what I've done is I put it through, it comes out the other side, make another hole the other side, come through again, and then I go back down the first hole, and then up the second hole, make another hole here, and so on, all the way around. So it's a very slow process, but it certainly does work. I wouldn't like to do it all the way around. It's alright just to do it in this small section. So that's done. I'm sure I'm not finished with the needle. Now I've got to put the sides on. I'm going to have the same problem when I get to particularly this area now, because it's, what is it, 1, 2, 3, it's already 4 pieces of leather thick, and I'm about to put another piece of leather on in there and sew that. So it's going to be 5 pieces of leather to go through on this end, so this is going to be difficult, and I'd say I'm back to hand stitching. Anyway, what I've got to do is to put this piece of leather around. It goes from here around to there, and then this other piece goes on the back to cover that, so you can't see the internal parts of the handle here. So I've now got to, I'll probably start with this piece actually. I'll put this on first, sew it on this inside area. This is the bit that goes against the door. It's really not seen, It's just to cover everything up. So I'll put that on first, and then I'll put the other one around the outside. As I say, I'll start with the machine and see how I go, but I'm sure I'm going to have problems. I'm definitely going to have problems around here. So we'll be back to the hand sewing. So off I go again. I've finished both of the armrests. The chrome pieces cleaned up okay. I've got those on. What I've now got to do is to mount it on the door. The way to do that, of course, is to take off the card that I've done, and I've got to mount this plate in behind, which goes up that way. There'll be a couple of holes somewhere in there on the metal section behind there, and then I've got to attach that and then work out where the holes need to be made through the vinyl to attach the chrome pieces on. So not sure where they'll go, but I assume it's somewhere around there. So anyway, I've got to take these cards off, not that they're fully attached anyway. Take those off, work out where the plate goes, put the plate on, and then make the holes and attach the chrome piece, which is on the back of that. I'll just turn that around. Okay, that chrome piece attaches to the plate through the vinyl, and then you slide the armrest onto that. So a little bit of work to do, but I'd like to get them on. And this is another piece of small trim. I'm not sure what they're actually called, but or panic holds or whatever. These are ones that go for the side passages in the rear seat that they can actually hang on to. I guess it's mainly when you're driving you would hang on to that. Anyway, I've got a few of them. The straps themselves will have to be redone. I've got two different types. This one here is some form of cloth. In fact, I've got a few cloth ones, or what's left of the cloth ones. So there's cloth ones, and there's this one which I thought was leather, but may well be vinyl. I'm not sure. It's or maybe it's only leather on the outside, or anyway, whatever it is, it's different again. So they're all about the same length. I started pulling one of the cloth ones apart. The cloth shouldn't be too, or cloth or leather, which I'm going to use, shouldn't be too hard to sew. I need to pull this apart and see how it's done. It looks like it shouldn't be too difficult. I'll probably pull this one apart because it's a lot more complete than these other ones. Anyway, the way they're held at the top, this top piece actually bolts onto the chrome upright on the front of the D window, just near the rear door. So it attaches up the top there, hangs down, and it's attached in a quite an ingenious way. I thought it was just the leather that went through the hold, and that's what attached it to the ring, but it's not. What it actually has is a metal clamp. It's this one here. Looks like a piece of steel because it's rusted. And what that does, that goes through the hole like that, and when you've got this cloth made, it clamps through the cloth or leather at the top there, and it clamps because it's got these long spikes, so it won't pull off as long as the metal stays intact, and then that enables the strap to pivot around the ring. So I've pulled the metal clamp off these cloth ones. I've got a couple of them there. I should be able to reuse those. I'll clean them up, get rid of the rust. I've got two serviceable rings, so that's not a problem. All I have to do is to remake this piece. Now, the other thing I discovered was that the metal clamp, as I say, clamps over the top of that, and then the cloth ones actually have material around the top there, so you can't see the metal. This one has this leather type material wrapped around the clamp, and it's sewn on the rear end of it, so I'll probably use the same method. Anyway, the first step will be to pull this one apart, see how it's made. I've decided to make them out of the leather. Still got some leather left, so hopefully they shouldn't be too hard, but I'll wait and see till I pull them apart. Now, this piece that I thought might be leather is actually vinyl. So I don't know why they've used different materials, or why they didn't even use leather, but anyway, it is vinyl. It's made of how many pieces? 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So it's got the centre piece, which is tapered at the top, and of course you halve it so the taper's neat, and then it has a piece on each side which hides the edge of the material in this case. Inside, or between the two main pieces of material, it appears to be a high density foam which is disintegrated, actually soft and sticky now. I won't be using that. I'll try and use this type of material, only thicker. It's a wadding. It will give a soft appearance and soft feel through the leather, so I'm hoping that should work well. I can use this as a basic template, but what they've done is when they've stitched the material together, they've actually then trimmed it with a pair of scissors. I can see where it's been cut, and why they've done that is to keep the actual sewn seam very close to the edge. So that's going to be a challenge, trying to get the scissors in and do that fine cut, but anyway, I should be able to do that. The way they've sewn it, of course, is that when sewing these edge pieces, they don't want to show any evidence of a separate material on the outer face of the strap. So what they've done with this edging material, they've sewn it through that way as a seam, and they've folded it around and then sewn basically the rear piece, this rear edge, from the front. So it appears as though it's just got one seam there, no edges showing, and it makes it look quite neat. So anyway, I've got to now work out how wide this material will be to commence the sewing, because as I say, once it's sewn it has to be cut down. It's very hard, of course, to sew very close to the edge of a piece of material. I mean, it would be 1.5 millimetres maybe, at the most 2 millimetres in some places, so it's very closely cut. But of course what I'll do initially is to have these edging pieces wider, and then once I've sewn them, then go along and trim it. Anyway, I've now got to, well, first of all, clean my hands up. This stuff is very thick, sticky, and it's going to take a lot to get it off my fingers. I just don't want to get it all over the leather. So here we go. I'll see how close I can replicate this using leather and the modern materials inside instead of the high density foam. I really don't think it needs the high density foam. And basically you're putting your fingers through it and holding it, so it will have the same soft feel. In fact, the leather might even be a much softer feel than the vinyl when it's sewn together. I managed to cut out a couple of templates. This is one of the straps, the main pieces of leather, and then has these smaller ones on the outside. Now I've already partly sewed one of them. This is the first one. That's the inside. Got to chop this leather off. A little bit more to trim off that maybe. I'll leave that for the moment. And what I'm doing is sewing this edging piece on. And slightly different from the way they did it, but same result. Gives a nice neat edge to the piece. So I've actually got to put it on like that and then start sewing it, do the initial sewing line down the edge, and then once that's done, then it flips over and around, and I found I've actually got to sew it from underneath. So very fiddly, but at this stage it seems to be going on alright. The challenge, of course, will be once I get all this on, then to put it up here and put that steel clip through. But I guess one step at a time. Looks quite neat. It's got a single layer of wadding inside, which seems to be enough. it's holding nicely, sitting nicely. The piece will actually hang open as it should do, so you can actually easily slip your hand in. So anyway, I'll keep going. Hopefully when I get this last piece sewn in and trim everything off, then I can get the steel clip on the top. That will be the challenge, I think. This is just slow, and sometimes I can use the machine with power and other times I've got to do it by hand, but it's actually coming together, which is pleasing. This sewed up nicely, so it's better than I thought it would turn out. It hangs nicely when it's folded. What I now have to do is to put the clamps on. Now, to do that, I actually have to pass this long spike through a hole that I've got to make in there, push that through, and clamp that shut, and hopefully these other smaller spikes will go into the leather and hold that. But it's a fairly thick piece to go through, so I'll have to use the probe here to do that. But I'll put that on first, then I have to make a cover similar to this to cover up the metal. So I'll start by putting this on, and hopefully I can get that in nice and tight. Okay, finally done. A little bit different. The effect is the same. So the leather is around the top, sewn on the top with this ugly needle, into the thumb a couple of times, but other than that it was fairly straightforward. So it covers the top up, that moves quite freely, so now it's just a case of screwing it onto the car. Alright, it's in place. Doesn't look too bad, so I'll just finish doing the other one. So they're not that difficult to do, but I think the leather is a better look.